Part 89. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 885. Wang Ling. This guy is too lively. With just a few words, Wang Ling was left speechless. You don't want to let Xiaohei suffer, so you should carry some things yourself. These are all your luggage. It's a good relationship, but it's all thrown at me, and they say I'm not tired. How come I'm so good at having fun after just going out? Xiaohei has lost weight like a dog. So when it's not thin, is it a pig? Originally, these words were enough to make people speechless, but unexpectedly, Wang Ling's unexpected words came next. Brother He, you are my brother. We must get rid of the shackles of species and aspire to be adults. Such shit, it's inedible. I can't just watch you eat shit. Wang Ling stumbled and almost threw away everything he had on him. These words shocked him to the core. Damn, no one in the city is as good at playing as you, right? Woof. Not to mention Wang Ling, even Xiaohei couldn't listen anymore this time. He raised his paw and covered Wei Bowen's mouth. He shook his head with disgust, signaling him to stop making shocking remarks. Those humanized movements and expressions are really like becoming a spirit. His spiritual intelligence has gradually opened up to this point. Xiaohei's IQ is no worse than that of ordinary children and teenagers. Wei Bowen was stunned by this scene. After blinking in confusion, he really stopped nagging Xiaohei. Instead, he scolded Wang Ling. Wang Ling, you are going too far. What's wrong? Can't I help you carry all the luggage? Wang Ling's face turned dark and funny. I originally thought that Wei Bowen would be more serious, but unexpectedly, this guy blurted out, Brother He is already so smart, and you still haven't taught him to speak human language. This time, Wang Ling was stunned, and Lei's brain seemed to be short-circuited. After Xiaohei was strengthened at the intermediate level and his spiritual intelligence was activated, Wang Ling did joke and ask Xiaohei to learn human language. However, no matter how smart Xiaohei was, he was still a dog. If he was allowed to learn human language, wouldn't it be difficult for him to do so? No, it should be difficult for a strong dog. People are smart enough, but why can't they learn dog language? Oh my god, you guys are really worthy of being in the same dormitory, competing against each other. Not only Wang Ling, but also Uncle He was so shocked that he couldn't help but tease Wang Ling. Wang Ling's mouth moved for a long time, but he couldn't say a word. I originally thought that this guy was joking like he did before, but I didn't expect that after he finished complaining, Wei Bowen actually squatted down and taught Xiaohei how to speak human words. Come on, brother He, learn from me. Look. I'm saying, brother, get out. Woof. Xiaohei was dumbfounded, as if his IQ had been seriously challenged. But this was not over yet. Wei Bowen continued to teach, pointing at Wang Ling and teaching one word at a time. Hit. Shit. You. My woo. Xiaohei couldn't bear it anymore, he let out a plaintive cry, and simply hid behind Wang Ling. And Wang Ling really didn't want to accept these funny words that made him at a loss. He shook his head, carried all the luggage alone, and walked towards the dormitory building, with Xiaohei following closely behind. With no one to tease, Wei Bowen could only follow him angrily. Nothing shocking happened along the way. Wang Ling easily carried his luggage up to the 6th floor in one go, went to the dormitory and put it aside. Xiaohei was also very casual, but Wei Bowen was already out of breath. When he found his bed, he didn't have time to tidy it up, so he lay down on it and kicked off his leather shoes with a flick of his legs. Seeing his funny look, Wang Ling couldn't help but laugh. It's a hot day and you have to wear work clothes? What are you thinking about? After Wei Bowen heard this, he sat up immediately, made a gesture, and said with joy, look at my outfit, do I look like a successful leader? People want clothes, maybe some schoolgirl will take a fancy to me and ask me, do you want your mobile phone number? Wang Ling laughed and said, I don't look like a successful leader. What's that like? Like selling insurance. As soon as these words came out, Wei Bowen was stunned on the spot, and then he seemed to have been slapped on the butt. You are the one who sells insurance. It's not surprising that he had such a reaction, because there was a popular saying on the internet, the wilted ones are afraid of the horizontal ones, the horizontal ones are afraid of the stiff ones, the stupid ones are afraid of the desperate ones are afraid of the shameless ones, and the shameless ones are afraid of selling out. Insured. This saying first became popular, probably because some people were annoyed by insurance people and went crazy, so they changed the saying and came up with this version. This is not professional discrimination. After all, life is not easy, and it is understandable that those insurance officers are too dedicated. However, even if it is not discrimination, in Wang Ling's age group, it can still be used to harm others. Wang Ling smiled and said nothing, and after Wei Bowen was injured, he really didn't want to continue wearing work clothes in the hot weather. Anyway, he had nothing to worry about in the dormitory, so he simply took off his clothes very neatly, leaving only just take off your shorts and you will be naked. It's great. I'm so suffocated, but it's still comfortable to wear small underwear. Finally taking off his work clothes, Wei Bowen felt refreshed, moved his limbs, and shouted happily. But Wang Ling reminded, even if you indulge again, don't take off your clothes so cleanly, at least wear big pants. But Wei Bowen disagreed. Well, what's the matter? It's a boys' dormitory. You can wear whatever you want, and there are no girls hanging around. As soon as he finished speaking, Lily's voice was heard in the corridor. Xiao He, I bought you your favorite jerky and nutritious dog food. Woof woof. Upon hearing this, Xiao He immediately pricked up his ears with a satisfied smile. However, Wei Bowen was stunned and blinked blankly. At this time, Lily and Lao Shui had already entered the dormitory, so. Ah, this was Wei Bowen's scream. Ah, this was Lily's scream. Wei Bowen thought that there would be no girls in the boys' dormitory. He was dressed in a dissolute way, with only a pair of shorts, almost naked. Lily happened to look at him, and he blushed on the spot and hurriedly got out of the dormitory. Wei Bowen was also frightened. Wang Ling, didn't you say you don't have a sister? Then who is she? Wang Ling twitched the corner of his mouth. That's not my girl either. Lao Shui also had a strange expression on his face. That's my girl. By the way, buddy, can we put on our pants first? When Wei Bowen heard this, he ignored the protest and hurriedly opened his suitcase, found a pair of short sports pants, and put them on. As for the upper body, don't worry about it. Lily can live in Lao Shui's dormitory anyway, and she's not too conservative. After the application was completed, Lao Shui Cai called Lily in as if he couldn't laugh or cry. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 886. Wang Ling, who is he? After Lily returned to Wang Ling's dormitory, she preemptively asked about Wei Bowen's identity. Wei Bowen was still protesting. Shouldn't I ask you who you are? This is our dormitory. Yuking and his wife are still interns. Logically speaking, there should be no girls here. What happened during my absence? What happened? Okay, you two should calm down. You won't suffer anyway, so sit down first. Wang Ling rubbed his forehead, somewhat helpless. After calming them down, Wang Ling explained, he is my roommate, Wei Bowen. I originally went out for an internship with other people, but today I suddenly made a comeback and resigned and came back. I just got to the dormitory and took off my clothes and you guys came here, working on both the front and back legs. Oh. Lily was still blushing. Although she was not that conservative, she still maintained some reserve. After introducing Wei Bowen, Wang Ling turned to introduce Lily and his wife. This is Lao Shui. He is not in the same major as us, but he is from the same department. He also lives on the 6th floor. This is his partner Lily. You are not here. I made new friends during this time. In fact, old Shuefei was not only in the same department as them, but the distance between the dormitories was less than 10 meters. But Wang Ling's school is so strange. Even if they are in the same department, as long as they are in different majors, the relationship is not in place, and they are not familiar with each other. It is very likely that they will have no impression of each other in 3 years. Wei Bowen and Lao Shui are like this. Relation. After getting to know each other, Wang Lingke further explained, we know each other, and it was actually Xiao He who connected us. The process was a bit tortuous and funny, so I won't go into details. The two of them came here to see Xiao He. Lao Shui added at this time, I came to see you by the way. Wang Ling suddenly got stuck and didn't want to talk anymore. Good guy, he might as well not have said this. Doesn't this mean that Wang Ling's status is not as good as Xiao He's? Woof woof. But Xiao He couldn't think of this. Hearing Wang Ling and the others talk about it in their conversation, he was so happy that he barked twice and turned around twice. Oh, Xiao He, how can you be so cute? Lily was still a little afraid of large dogs before, but these days, Xiao He has completely attracted fans. She liked him so much that she went up to hug Xiao He and rubbed a few rubs on her face. And then took out some of the dried meat she bought and fed it to Xiao He. Wang Ling and Lao Shui had long been accustomed to this scene, but this was the first time Wei Bowen saw it. He swallowed and sighed, no wonder I told Brother He to aspire to be an adult before and be despised. His feelings are better than those of others, it's moisturizing. No, I don't even get this kind of treatment. Lao Shui also smiled bitterly. Wang Ling raised his hand and asked without comment, by the way, Bowen, the internship was good, why did you suddenly resign? Ahem, I get angry when I talk about this. Wei Bowen was slightly excited. Don't mention that the internship unit is cheating people a lot, I'm telling you. Lao Shui asked curiously, how could it be possible? Isn't it customer service? Isn't this a scam? Those people in the accounting department have been assigned to work as cashiers in major supermarkets, and those in the automobile and electricity department have gone to the factory to do odd jobs. Our customer service department, it should be the best, right? Wei Bowen retorted, what a fart. It sounds nice, but customer service is actually working for the bank. It is not directly under the bank, but an outsourcing company hired by the bank. The outsourcing company then uses cheap odd jobs like us, and the bank they just give us a job number and basically don't care about anything else. But even if it's a part-time job, working for a bank, the pay isn't bad, right? Even Lily was curious. Wei Bowen, however, sounded like someone who has come before and complained, you are too young. Are all banks good? Do you know how much my first month's salary is? How many? 900. What, 900? Capital city. Wang Ling and the three of them couldn't believe it. Yes, 900 yuan, Beijing. Wei Bowen pointed in the direction of the capital from the air. Tell me, what can you do with a salary of 900 yuan in the capital? Fortunately, we still live in a collective student dormitory. It's dirty and messy, and there are cockroaches crawling around. How much can be left even if the electricity and accommodation expenses are divided equally? The three of them were speechless. Only then did they realize that they had thought of this position too well. As for Wei Bowen, it was as if he was exposing the truth angrily and didn't want to stop talking. Actually, the salary is not so low, but who made us interns? And the outsourcing company contacted us through an intermediary. And the agency deducted a considerable amount of money from it. After all this oppression, our salary is only enough to barely survive. Indeed, with 900 yuan, You really can't do anything in the capital. You can only eat the cheapest food. Well, fortunately, there is a large student canteen around our dormitory. Otherwise, we really can't afford to eat takeout every day. That guy Yuking also suffered from gastroenteritis in the student canteen, which delayed the treatment time and almost collapsed. It cost more than 600 yuan to treat me, Bowen said indignantly. Lily also complained, the monthly salary is 900, and the medical treatment costs 600. How can I still live? Wang Ling couldn't help but remind him, that kid's family already has money, and the internship salary is not enough for his pocket money. Let's not worry about his financial problems first. Lily said oh and said nothing more. Wei Bowen continued, the second month's salary was a little more. My salary reached 1,500 yuan, and it was just over 2,000 yuan. Yuking asked for leave and deducted full attendance. It's 1,600 yuan, but what's the price? Work overtime every day. When recruiting people, they say they will work from 9 to 6. In fact, there are only a handful of times when they can get off work normally. They can be counted on one hand. Overtime is mandatory, even on Saturdays and Sundays. I get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, wash up and walk for half an hour to the work. First, I hand in my mobile phone. I don't have to play with it. I work all the time. I take a lunch break for an hour and get off work at 6 o'clock in the evening. I basically work overtime. What time does the overtime work last? Look at the team leader's face. The last time I worked overtime, I worked 3 hours of overtime. Holy shit, you've been working for so long, do you get overtime pay? Lily seemed very interested in this matter. Wei Bowen shook his head exaggeratedly, if there is overtime pay, what about the salary of 1,500? The reason for working overtime is that we have not completed the task and are doing our own work. Where can we get the overtime pay? If we do not collect enough for the task, I will not deduct your money, not bad. Lao Shui was relatively rational about this and retorted, the salary is indeed a bit low, but for interns, this kind of treatment is not surprising. But Wei Bowen disagreed, Tisk, with this treatment, do you know what kind of work we do? Isn't it customer service? It's customer service, but it's just an outbound call. It's just called customer service. According to Shenkei, it's actually someone who makes harassing calls. The credit card users of that bank will allocate data to us after the bill is issued, and let us give it to them, call them and persuade them to apply for installments so that you can earn their handling fees. It's a bit of harassment. I've also received similar calls. However, it's normal for a position like this, right? The positions are normal, and the key capitalists have no conscience. All users are fat sheep to them. They use our hands to shear their sheep, and they do it unscrupulously. Some customers refused once, and the system assigned them again. I went to another person and continued to call. After I refused, I was assigned again. The unlucky customer received 7 or 8 calls in one bill. Do you think this is annoying? Why is it so detailed here? Who told me this is my personal experience? This is the kind of work we did during the internship. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 887. Holy shit, are you so annoying? If you ask me, I might even curse you. After hearing this, Lao Shui put himself in the user's shoes and said he couldn't accept it. Wei Bowen said, isn't that right? Those customers are annoyed by being beaten, and some of them really know how to curse. I've encountered this more than once. I didn't even say a word when they came up, but the other end just yelled, what the hell are you doing? I'm sick, I told you not to fight, But I'm still fighting endlessly. After saying that, just hang up. After a pause, Wei Bowen slapped his thigh and complained very excitedly, "Tell me, did I want to be beaten? It's not because the work unit forced me to beat him. Those who scold others are still polite, and some people scold them. It was so unpleasant that I was trembling with anger. Some girls ran out to cry after being scolded, and the team leader even complained that she stopped working. Tell me, is this something done by a human being? Holy shit. This time, even Lily couldn't help but curse, what the hell is this? I receive 7 or 8 bank customer service calls a month, all of them urging people to apply for installments. Who can stand this? The bank is shearing sheep again. You can't do this. Wang Ling asked, what will happen if we don't fight? Don't fight? If you don't fight, you can't complete the task and you won't be allowed to get off work. Wei Bowen continued to reveal, the bank assigns each of us a batch of customer data every day, some are 120 or 30, and some are 15610, you are required to call these customers. 70 seconds of calls are considered a touch. 70 touches are required every day to be qualified. Intermediate and senior technicians have higher requirements. There are also call time tasks, which require 3 hours a day. Yes, these requirements may sound easy to you, but they are simply frustrating to do. Those of us who are interns are exposed to the worst batch of data, and customers are particularly disgusted with bank customer service calls. As I said before, it's a sign to curse someone when you answer the phone, but more people just hang up when they see the bank's phone number and don't even answer it. Are you annoying me? Wang Ling interrupted. Wei Bowen replied, isn't that right? Who wouldn't be bothered by changing someone? Tell me, with this kind of data, how can you reach 70 touches? How can you talk for 3 hours? Those customers who are willing to listen to you are only a handful. Lao Shui asked again, if it is so laborious, is there anyone who can complete the task? Yes, of course. For example, those old fritters know how to deal with customers and trick them into paying installment fees. But we interns are not good at it. There are only a few who can complete daily tasks, so we can only work overtime every day. I get off work early at 7 o'clock, and I often work until 7:30 or 8 o'clock. Wei Bowen gasped and broke the news, do you know why you worked overtime until after 9 o'clock that time? The manager was in a bad mood and blocked the rules. If you don't complete the task, you won't be let off work. At that time, a lot of our data the fight was over, there was no need to fight anymore, and some people really couldn't fight anymore, so a group of people just stood there and fought. There were very few people who were really willing to continue fighting, but they just refused to get off work. It lasted until at around 9 o'clock, the manager finished chatting with others. He was bored and couldn't hold on anymore and left, so the team leader got off work for us. After a pause, Wei Bowen started talking again, we can't stand this long working day. We look forward to the stars, the moon, weekends, and statutory holidays, and they all work overtime. Just say that we haven't completed the task. Mandatory overtime. You tell me, there is no hope at all. Can I still do this kind of internship? It's not just me, the internship time is not even half over. 1/3 of those who were interns have already resigned. All over. After talking for so long, Wei Bowen felt a little thirsty. After he finished speaking, he dug into his backpack, took out a bottle of mineral water and started drinking. But Wang Ling and the other 3 were already speechless. Indeed, life is not easy, and the financial and life pressures from the future are always a heavy burden on their shoulders, with the exception of Wang Ling. Internships in this school are usually about dealing with things, but through internships, these students realize this cruel reality of society in advance. However, for people like Wei Bowen and others, the outsourcing company contacted the school through an intermediary for internship, and the treatment was much worse than that of ordinary employees. What they experienced was not that life was not easy, but full of disgusting. Although Wei Bowen may be funny, but in fact he is easily anxious when something happens. With his temperament, resigning under such a forced request is nothing new. After all, Wang Ling did not go to the internship in person. He just heard what Wei Bowen said. Although he was indeed depressed, he was far less angry than Bowen. At this time, he did not want to help him with anything. He waited until Wei Bowen drank all the water. Speaking of, forget it, don't think about those things, they are all back anyway. Yes, the more I think about it, the angrier I am. Fortunately, I resigned. Those two fools, Shenkei and Yuking, are better at cheating. They have more orders than me. They want to stick with it for a while and give it a try. Let's just wait and see when they run away. Come back. Wei Bowen also looked away, shook his hand, and continued to be happy again. No matter what, when this guy comes back, Wang Ling will always have a companion in the real world. Although Lao Shui Lily and the others would come to see Xiao He from time to time, after all, there was a layer of relationship between them, and they were far from the closeness between roommates. Now, Bowen returned to school, and Lao Shui and Lily were also there. Wang Ling helped Wei Bowen tidy up the bed and luggage, and then called Guang Tao and the other three to go out for a meal. After resting in the afternoon and having some fun, a few people went out to prepare some skewers and beer, and then stayed in the dormitory to indulge. During this period, Xiao He also ate very happily. Not only did he eat barbecue like other people, but he also drank beer. This made Wei Bowen worried. Wang Ling, you don't care. What does brother He eat? How can I stand drinking? Woof woof, Xiao He protested, and Wang Ling also smiled and said, don't worry, Xiao He has a special physique. Even if you eat something that will make your stomach upset, it will be fine. It is tougher than you. Bah! Are you saying that my physique is not as good as that of a dog? Ha ha ha. Wei Bowen rolled his eyes, but everyone laughed. After they had laughed, Guang Tao said in a sly voice, Bowen, I just made a phone call, and you really came back. You don't want to do the internship anymore. Calling? What phone? Wang Ling was confused. When this matter was brought up, Wei Bowen suddenly slapped his thigh and said jokingly, by the way, I haven't told you about this yet. Wang Ling, I heard that you were so indulgent that you collapsed and ended up in the hospital. Wang Ling's face darkened instantly. Qianqi and Guang Tao had reported his dark history to Wei Bowen. Before Wang Ling could answer, Wei Bowen began to persuade him earnestly, I'm not telling you, even if we are not here, you can't be so indulgent, right? Doug Zhu went to the hospital, what do you want to do? I'm resigning this time, on the one hand it's because I've had enough of that unit, and on the other hand it's actually because of Guang Tao's phone call. Damn, it's really hard not to have anyone in the dormitory watching you. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 888. Wang Ling was stunned, choked by his words and speechless. He was really mute now and couldn't explain the pain of eating coptis. In order to cover up the matter of the different dimensional system, Wang Ling casually said it, causing Guang Tao to misunderstand it. I thought that incident would be treated as a joke, but I didn't expect that in the eyes of these people, it would become Wang Ling's dark history. Can it not be depressing? Ha ha ha. Yes, there must be someone watching him. Don't let him indulge too much, otherwise he may lead Xiao He astray. Don't take it too seriously. It's okay to indulge occasionally. Ha ha. Wang Ling was depressed, but the others had enough laughter. Although his reputation was at stake, Wang Ling had no intention of explaining anything and just took another sip of beer. After putting down the bottle, he giggled again in his depression. With Wang Ling's current state of mind, it would be easy for Wang Ling to automatically block and forget these jokes and other things, and they would not affect his state of mind. However, just thinking about the reason for Wei Bowen's return, it was inevitable that he felt a little warm in his heart. Why was he surprised by Wei Bowen's resignation? Because he never thought that this guy would really resign. During the previous phone call, Wang Ling also knew that this internship unit was a bit deceptive, but with Wei Bowen's temperament, if nothing unexpected happened, he would probably curse and grit his teeth and persevere. But something like Wang Ling happened to happen. Before the internship was even halfway through, this guy had already returned early. It is true that the school internship is only symbolic, but after the actual internship is over and the internship certificate is obtained, there will be a lot less trouble when graduating from junior year. But without this thing, the school doesn't know how it would be in trouble. Hush, give me some face, give me some face, Lily is still here, don't talk about these big men's topics so bluntly. After causing this joke, Wei Bowen took the initiative to put out the fire, as if this matter was not he seemed to mention it. While chatting, eating skewers, and drinking beer, the 7 people and 1 dog were having a good time. They kept arguing until almost 11 o'clock. This was because Lily was sleepy, otherwise there would have been another 2 hours of trouble. After seeing the 5 of them off, Wang Ling and Wei Bowen tidied up the dormitory, and after washing up, it was finally time to rest again. The 2 of them were lying on their own beds, each playing with their mobile phones. After a while, Wei Bowen's snoring could be heard. Wang Ling smiled after hearing this and did not consume any more. He put down his phone, closed his eyes and returned to the world of Red Alert. Indeed, the real world has a companion, but the world of Red Alert holds great importance in Wang Ling's heart, and what should be continued must be continued. Anyway, he has recently returned to the coalition camp, and he is not afraid of getting injured as frequently as before. In the Red Alert world, most of the soldiers in General Li Wiki's base are now drunk. Even Li Tong and Gu Suanwu, 2 assistants appointed by Wang Ling, have also lied down. Now the temporary command post is quiet. Wang Ling put his hands behind his head and stared at the ceiling for a moment, feeling particularly at ease. Unknowingly, with his eyelids fighting, Wang Ling finally closed his eyes and fell asleep, sleeping until dawn. After a night's rest, all the drunken soldiers had sobered up. They got up under the reveille and started morning exercises. Naturally, Wang Ling no longer had to participate. When he woke up, a group of infantrymen were still running, and General Li Wiki was supervising from the side with a faint smile on his face. "General, morning." After meeting, Wang Ling saluted habitually, and after General Li Wiki returned the salute, he looked at Wang Ling up and down, then at the running troops, and smiled knowingly. "Every morning symbolizes a new life, but since you left, the base has been lifeless. Every day seems to be passing by, and everyone is like a zombie. You are still amazing. It has only been less than a day since you returned to the base, and the base seems to be alive. Look, these little bastards, what are you doing? Call a highly motivated person." Wang Ling didn't answer. He looked at the energetic subordinates in front of him. After feeling sad, he felt extremely satisfied. "Stand still." Finally, after a simple morning run, with a slogan, the morning exercise also came to an end. After being disbanded, a group of infantrymen immediately surrounded Wang Ling, with many people squeezing his arms and looking silly. This disgusted Wang Ling. "What are you doing?" The second donkey yelled, "Quack, my idea, my idea." They were afraid that yesterday was just a dream, so I suggested that they wait until they wake up and ravage you to see if this was a dream. "Ah, I suspect it's a dream. I'll ravage you all on your own." Wang Ling couldn't laugh or cry for a while. After barely stopping the group of fanatical soldiers, it was finally time for breakfast. Compared with the real world, the food in the red alert world seems to have no taste. Some of it is really unpalatable. At best, it just fills the stomach. The coalition food is no exception. But Wang Ling felt that breakfast on this day had a different flavor. Even the soldiers were smiling and lively, as if they were eating the most delicious food in the world. After breakfast, it was time to leave. Wang Ling and General Li Wiki had to go to the headquarters to meet with PoortoRich. But before leaving, it seemed that they were afraid that Wang Ling would never come back. A group of people saw him off, and their reluctant look really made Wang Ling feel uncomfortable. It was General Li Wiki who stopped them. "What are we doing? We are going to the headquarters, not to die. We will come back after the report. As for each of us, is it the same as parting or dying?" Only then did a group of people give up in frustration. The Baiyuan Mountain Theater was not close to the coalition headquarters. Generals Wang Ling and Li Wiki relied on the convenience of air defense crawlers to set out early in the morning, almost non-stop, and did not arrive until the next morning. During this period, Wang Ling did not go too far into the real world. He just took naps in the tracked vehicle and felt energetic when he arrived at the headquarters. PoortoRich and the others had been waiting for Wang Ling for a long time. When they arrived, the coach himself was waiting outside with a group of generals. There were even 2 groups of soldiers and 2 rows of tanks at the entrance. This battle formation, it was quite grand for Wang Ling. "Coach, generals, long time no see." After getting off the car and seeing this formation, Wang Ling was a little flattered, but he was calm. When meeting the coach and generals, the military etiquette was very standard. "Wang Ling, you are finally back. We have been waiting for this day for too long." PoortoRich did treat Wang Ling differently. He didn't have so many rules. As the commander, he actually grabbed Wang Ling's hand. He kept sighing with his hand, and even hugged Wang Ling's shoulders hard afterward, laughing playfully. "To be honest, it's been so long. Have you missed me, this old guy?" Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 889. Although Wang Ling was moved by the fanaticism of the men in the wolf group, it was actually not surprising. But the coach was so eager here, which made Wang Ling a little at a loss. He blinked and gave a silly smile before replying, "Yes. Of course I do. Ha ha ha." It seemed that it was also because he had been missing Wang Ling for so long. He was finally looking forward to his return. PoortoRich was in a particularly cheerful mood today and smiled very wildly. Not only the coach, but also the generals at the rear were all smiling. Wang Ling's return was a big event for the entire coalition forces. Even the soldiers stationed in the headquarters blinked innocently and looked at Wang Ling. They were also curious about this legendary figure in the coalition forces. It's better to come back. A force must have a hero, otherwise it always feels like something is missing. After laughing for a while, PoortoRich sighed again. Other generals also echoed. "Yes, the moment Wang Ling was controlled, I felt like the entire coalition force had changed. This is the role of role models. Wang Ling relied on his own strength and our deliberate training to become a hero for the entire army, which is a spiritual pillar and role model in itself. However, this role model was taken away by the enemy. Of course, our morale it's affected. But it's fine now. Wang Ling is back. Haha, not only is he back, but he's also stronger. Take a look at what he did in the Allied barracks, it's so exciting. Yes. Reagan should have died a long time ago. But I was worried before that after Wang Ling really comes back, will he not dare to take revenge? Haha, now it seems that I have underestimated Wang Ling. You guy, really he is worthy of being a hero of the whole army. Relieve your anger. Haha. The same coalition forces, the same excitement, but different identities of people, but also different performances. The group of fanatics in the wolf group felt like they had been given a shot of blood when they saw Wang Ling. They were stacking arhats and playing high toss. It was so exciting. But relatively speaking, this group of generals and even commanders were much more rational, but everyone also showed joy during their conversations without any concealment. Compared with the overall atmosphere of the Seoul Empire, this atmosphere is too different. After silently comparing it in his mind, Wang Ling stayed at the coalition headquarters. Although it was somewhat limited, he felt more at ease. Of course, when a group of generals were boasting, Wang Ling couldn't be too arrogant. He quickly became humble and said, "Generals, you are so complimentary. I was indeed arrogant when it came to storming the Allied barracks. When I got up, I was holding back my anger. So I went. In the end, I relied on the coach's nuclear bomb threat to suppress the Allied forces. Otherwise, I would have been in trouble if I had clashed with the Allied defenders." "Hey, you can't say that." PoortoRich patted Wang Ling on the shoulder and said comfortingly, "I threaten with a nuclear bomb, but there are conditions. If you don't dare to break into the Allied barracks, I threaten with a nuclear bomb. Who is going? Besides, Reagan has tricked you so badly. Isn't it natural for you to seek revenge from him after you come back? If the Allies want to take this opportunity to embarrass you, that's too much. We didn't have it when you were in the empire of mine, there is no way, but since I have come back, I must protect you no matter what. If I see you being trapped and killed in the Allied barracks but I don't do anything, then wouldn't I be too useless as a commander? The coach is too modest." Ahem. Wang Ling was still shamelessly playing modesty, but at this time General Li Wiki couldn't stand it any longer. He coughed and said contemptuously, "That's it, it's not over yet to be humble. One of you is a coalition hero and the other is a commander. What are you doing? Woolen cloth. Ha ha ha. Lao Li can't stand it? Ha ha ha. TCH, I don't know why he is so happy. Wang Ling is working under him. The coach praises Wang Ling, but I don't believe he is not happy at all. Ha ha." After hearing this, a group of generals laughed mercilessly, making General Li Wiki laugh so hard that he couldn't help but laugh. Here we can really see the different camps and different atmospheres. Not to mention that the Empire of the Heart didn't dare to do this. As for the Allies alone, someone dared to make fun and accuse him in front of General Bob. Commander Bob should have been furious a long time ago. Where would it be the turn of these generals to joke? Of course, even within the coalition forces, this is treated differently. Ordinary soldiers, the kind with no status, would be no big deal if they said this in front of a group of generals or even commanders, but General Li Wiki was an exception. In addition to his status as a lieutenant general, he also had the honor of Wang Ling. He made a strong comeback after a few months. The senior leaders of the coalition were excited and naturally they would not be so picky and rigid. After reminiscing about old times, a staff member came forward and led PoortoRich, Wang Ling and other senior officials to the tables and chairs that had been arranged in advance, and motioned for everyone to sit down. However, this seat is more elegant. The front seat is isolated and faces the rear, just like a lecturer's desk. However, this seat was given to Wang Ling, and his intention is very obvious. Sure enough, after everyone took their seats, PoortoRich said, "Wang Ling, we old guys are very curious about your experience and growth in the past few months. Now that you have arrived at the headquarters, tell us, say it." Curiosity is human nature, even generals and commanders are no exception. Wang Ling actually didn't like to dwell on the same things too much. He had already mentioned these experiences once in front of the Wolf Group and the Eagle Group. But after all, the audience is different. This is a group of generals in front of us. It was hard to reject the warm hospitality, so Wang Ling did not show any pretense. He cleared his throat and recounted those experiences in detail again. When it came to causing trouble in the Russian branch of the Seoul Empire because of their dark personalities, some of the generals laughed very unjustly, almost as if they were gloating about their misfortune. When it was told that when they arrived at the battlefield and specifically targeted the Allies, but were bombarded by a lightning storm, all the generals frowned, and some even cursed the Allies. And when talking about the spiritual empire's massive construction of spiritual beacons after the victory, all the generals fell silent again, inevitably feeling a heavy sense of urgency in their hearts. The threat of the Soul Empire is too great. Controlling Wanling and helping them conquer cities and territories will undoubtedly accelerate the process of the Soul Empire's expansion and global domination. However, it had already happened, and there was no point in dwelling on it. A group of generals quickly looked away, while Wanling was still talking. When it was mentioned that the Allied forces had once again trapped Wanling, the generals were inevitably furious again, but thinking that Wanling had already personally dealt with Reagan, they managed to suppress their anger. Later, he was transferred back to the Russian branch and received special mental training. He strengthened his mental strength, confirmed his status through exercises, and finally underwent an intensive transformation experiment. Wanling also detailed the process. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 890. As early as when Wanling found the coalition forces again and moved, Lieutenant General Lei actually reported Wanling's detailed information. In this report, PoortoRich and other generals also knew about Wanling's changes, such as the giant Beast King, as well as powerful shock waves, as well as super long distance and large-scale mind control. However, when Wanling explained at that time, he did not talk about these experiences in detail. Lieutenant General Lei Jun only reported the information he knew. PoortoRich and these generals only knew about it but did not know why. After listening to Wanling's narration, they finally understood the detailed process and how Wanling acquired these skills. Of course, Wanling also had reservations about his story this time. He did not reveal his true identity and cleverly covered up the past. Although there was no simple person among the people present, no one knew the truth about the Red Alert world, and naturally they could not detect Wanling's loopholes. Hearing this, some people couldn't help but sigh, so this is how you got your wild orcs, shock waves, and mind control. The process is indeed very painful, but it is worth it to achieve the current results. PoortoRich nodded in agreement, and then asked, so what happened next? Although my consciousness had returned to normal at that time, I was still in the Russian branch of the Soul Empire, facing a heavy military siege. Wanling also continued talking, recounting in detail the entire process of killing the Yuri clone, several generals, and Yuri. All the generals were relieved after hearing this. Then came the process of escape. Wanling also had reservations here. Since the narrative lacked the excesses of the real world, it naturally exaggerated the difficulty of the escape process. Everyone, including PoortoRich, sighed after hearing this. It is really not easy for Wanling to return to the coalition camp. The narration finally ended here. All the generals were amazed when they heard the whole process. After all the generals sighed, PoortoRich summed it up, it is gold, it will shine wherever it goes. Yuri is specially designed to control you, which actually proves your value. And during the control process, there is no suppression because of your character. I exempted you from military salutes, and I think highly of you. However, in the end, you are still the hero of our coalition. The Empire of the Heart tried to rob you, but finally broke your teeth. In the past few months, I have also suffered a lot as you. Coach, it's worth everything to be able to return to the Allied forces. Wanling did not hold himself too high and responded quickly with a military salute. But General Li Wiki broke the news, the hard work is real, but this guy has learned all the most proud skills of the Soul Empire, and he has also mutated into a wild beast king. Yuri is so anxious that he wants to kill him. Didn't you see? When he demonstrated the shockwave to us the day before yesterday, it was scary. Oh? How scary is it? Wang Ling, don't worry about one thing and not the other. Demonstrate it to us and let us open our eyes too. A general came up curiously and insisted on taking a look. And with the leader, how can others be spared? Everyone urged him, and even PoortoRich spoke up. It's hard to deny hospitality, so let's demonstrate it. Wang Ling didn't wait too long, smiled, and then his eyes suddenly focused, and a strong mental pressure enveloped almost the entire headquarters. Buzz. Being attacked by mental pressure, almost everyone in the headquarters changed their expressions, and a strong sense of fear lingered in their hearts. Many guards were either trembling with fear, or had chills running down their spines, or their faces were pale and their hearts were beating fast. Even the generals were no exception, with traces of cold sweat streaming down their temples. PoortoRich suddenly said, "No wonder when you forced your way into the Allied barracks a few days ago, the soldiers reacted in such a weird and emotional way. I tried my best to imagine you in an exaggerated way, but I didn't expect that. I still underestimated you." Coach, don't rush to a conclusion, this is not a shockwave. Wang Ling smiled slyly, and his expression moved. The strong mental pressure suddenly stopped, but then a strong shockwave appeared and spread. Cleverly avoided all the soldiers and tanks, and radiated to most of the headquarters area. Wherever it passed, the ground was covered with earth and rocks, as if it had been plowed. Hiss. Seeing this scene, all the generals took a breath, and all the guards opened their mouths in surprise, their eyes full of disbelief. Even PoortoRich's pupils narrowed a bit. After all the dust fell, the general stood up in shock. Oh my God, the power of the spiritual level can have such powerful destructive power. No wonder the shockwave of the psychic army can instantly kill all ordinary infantry. Wang Ling nodded, indeed, we all underestimate the power of the spiritual level. The power of the spiritual empire is not without reason. But this is too exaggerated. Lao Li really didn't fool us, it's really scary. The generals murmured one after another, and PoortoRich laughed at himself. Thankfully, I thought that I saved your life by threatening the Allies with nuclear bombs. You have your own trump card in love. With this shockwave, with you with the ability, it may be possible to escape from the Allied encirclement. Wang Ling hurriedly humbled himself and said, Coach, although it is possible, the price is not small, and there is still the possibility of failure. Therefore, your nuclear bomb threat has really helped me a lot. PoortoRich didn't answer. Instead, an old general nicknamed Suzaku continued to propose, the shockwave ability did give us a big surprise. So, what about mind control? I heard Lei Jun say that you can do it from a long distance, control the strength of more than one unit. Indeed. Buzz. Buzz. Wang Ling smiled inexplicably, and suddenly a spiritual connection was projected down and connected to the head of the old General Suzaku. After it was stabilized, 2 more spiritual power projections were launched. One controlled another general, and the other extended far away and forcibly controlled an apocalypse tank patrolling at the edge of the headquarters. Ouch! It's really a monster. 3 connected lines. And 1 flew so far. The world is really going to change. Even the psychic troops can't do this. Wang Ling did not deliberately hide the 3 spiritual connections. Everyone present could see it. These old generals no longer cared about their identities. There was an uproar for a while, and everyone expressed their inner horror. But Wang Ling was still there, and issued orders from the mental connection. The apocalypse tank that was patrolling came directly over and stayed not far away from Wang Ling, spinning its barrel. The 2 generals, Suzaku, also left the table and performed a wrestling show in front of a group of generals and even PoortoRich. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 892. Hey. Hey. Even though the two generals, Suzaku, are quite old, after all, they are from military training backgrounds. Their spirits are still strong and their skills are still flexible. The two of them are twisting together, each showing their special skills. Among the other generals, you and I started fighting back and forth in front of us. The falling was so fierce that it was difficult to tell the winner for a while. The apocalypse tank on the side was like a referee, but it was just a crazy one. It kept turning the barrel stupidly, as if to add to the fun. Good. With the temperaments of these two old generals, it was absolutely impossible for them to do this in public. It was obviously Wang Ling's order, but there were other generals who were watching the fun and didn't think it was a big deal, and even specifically applauded. Hearing the cheers, the two generals remained unmoved and continued to fight. However, Wang Ling became embarrassed and quickly revoked his mind control. Just kidding, although Wang Ling has a hero status, these two have been famous generals for a long time. If the quarrel continues, it will be a big deal. After the mind control disappeared, the apocalypse tank finally returned to normal. It immediately stopped shaking the barrel and stayed motionless in place. The two old generals also stopped wrestling and finally regained consciousness after a period of trance. However, this time Wang Ling did not delete the memory of when they were controlled. The two old generals still had fresh memories of the wrestling scene they had just performed. Even if they had seen a lot of the world, it was inevitable that they would be a little embarrassed at this time. Old General Suzaku was embarrassed, but he also complained, "I say Wang Ling, are you deliberately trying to embarrass me? There are so many people, why did you just pick the two of us? You can just pick a few soldiers." Ha ha ha. This old Suzaku is so shy. Go away. I'm so shy about this. This is what I am. What is it? It's none of your business, it's not you who are being controlled emotionally. Ha ha ha. These old generals were all very familiar with each other, and a group of people laughed at them. After a moment of embarrassment, Wang Ling cleared his throat and explained, replying to General Suzaku, "It's not that I'm targeting you specifically, but that among the generals here, only you two can control it." Huh? What do you mean? Another control general asked. Wang Ling replied, "Mind control is not unlimited. The control target has no mind at all, or after the mental resistance reaches a certain level, it cannot be controlled. When I release the mental pressure, I have actually tested the generals. The mental resistance of the two of you is not strong enough and you can control it smoothly." Ha ha ha, Suzaku, it's not Wang Ling's fault, it's you who can't do it. Are you embarrassed? Are you slapped in the face? It's still the mind control you requested. Ha ha. The two generals, Suzaku, were immediately speechless, while the other generals took the opportunity to laugh. The faces of the two old generals turned red when they laughed. Wang Lingzi took the opportunity to cough dryly, interrupted the other generals, and warned, "Two generals, I put the target on you, but I actually have some intentions. Although my mind control skill has a wide range and many targets, in fact, it is not much stronger than ordinary psychic troops. I can control it, and so can the psychic troops. The Psychic Empire is currently our #1 enemy, and we have to guard against their special skills. So, you two, it's time to strengthen your mental resistance training. Within the coalition and allied forces, there are naturally some training programs that can enhance mental power." When Wang Ling learned about this kind of training, he was actually interested in mastering the abilities of the psychic troops through training. But after he understood the details of the training, he gave up directly. Because this training is not only very time-consuming and laborious, but also far from the results Wang Ling wants. However, this does not prevent other generals from training their mental power. After all, they do not have the ability of psychic troops. They just use training to enhance their mental resistance and reach the point of immunity to mind control. That is enough. It seems that we really must not slack off, otherwise it will be a drag on the young people. General Suzaku was not in a hurry to get angry. Instead, he smiled ashamedly. It seemed that he had made up his mind to improve his mental resistance. Been training for a while. The display of mind control skills ended here. However, after the two generals Suzaku returned to their posts, another general suggested, "We have seen shockwaves and mind control. It is really an unexpected surprise. Very practical. So, what about the fighting ability of your wild beast king?" Mentioning the beast king, the generals became interested again, and even Coach Rich said, "Yes, from what you said, it is a chaotic war after all, and we don't have an intuitive understanding. Let's put it this way, it happens that the Apocalypse tank is here, you can use the Apocalypse tank to test its attack power." Buzz. Buzz. The Apocalypse tank immediately shook its gun barrel, perhaps regretting why it didn't return to patrol duty immediately. Instead, it was treated as a target by staying here. However, the armored troops were not infantry after all, so they had no way to protest, and the commander had already given the order and had no choice but to execute it. Wang Ling looked back at the Apocalypse tank and laughed, "Okay, the tanks of the Soul Empire are not strong enough. I also want to try to see what the effect of hitting Apocalypse will be." Roar. After saying that, Wang Ling roared like a beast, and his body immediately swelled a bit, the muscles all over his body bulged exaggeratedly, and his skin turned blue-black, making him look like a smaller orc. Advanced enhancement, modification of its genes, all aspects of the body's abilities have been greatly improved, and the most obvious one is its powerful control ability. In the form of the Wild Beast King, Wang Ling can change the size of his body within certain limits, but no matter how big it is, his strength is constant. There is no need to burst his clothes again in front of a group of generals. Even so, these generals were shocked when they saw Wang Ling's changes. Wang Ling ignored them. Instead, he sauntered closer to the Apocalypse tank. He laughed evilly, clenched his fists, and roared, then launched a fierce attack on it. Boom! With this blast, Wang Ling did not hold back at all, almost using his strongest strength now. The Apocalypse tank was hit by the blast, and the body of the tank shook violently. The whole body passively shifted a little to one side. The health bar on the top of it, I lost almost half of my money in an instant. Fortunately, the Apocalypse tank is hard enough, otherwise if it were an ordinary Rhino tank, it might be directly exploded by this punch. Ouch! What a powerful destructive power! The King of Wild Beasts is indeed worthy of this title. Boom! The generals were surprised, but before they could finish their discussion, Wang Ling had already punched him a second time. With this punch, the Apocalypse tank's health bar almost bottomed out. The little blood remaining was so red that it was almost glaring. There was even thick black smoke rising from the car. Normal serialization has resumed. I have been a bit tired these past few days, but being able to have some fun with these old guys makes it all worth it. There is an old man lining up to get married next month. Watching these friends around me get married one by one, to be honest, I feel some inexplicable feelings in my heart, both happy and disappointed. All the roommates who have been together for 3 years have found partners, but here I am still worried about family money. The seal makes me particularly sensitive. When my friends talk about folk customs, I even think about it, if these folk customs were written into a novel, would the book be sealed? Alas, it's too far off topic. In the past few days, I have been working hard to supplement the manuscript every day after returning to the hotel. I am confused about how many chapters are missing from the manuscript. I will continue to serialize it like this for now. As for the sealed book, I will see what else I can do. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 893. 2 punches. Using all his strength, the Beast King form only required 2 punches to almost destroy an apocalypse tank. This is just pure force destruction. In fact, Wang Ling's current control ability can completely wrap the electromagnetic energy of the magnetic blast infantry into his fists. On top of the pure force destruction, he will add a layer of electromagnetic ability destruction. By then, the 2 fists will be destroyed. Under this, the apocalypse tank will definitely die. Of course, even if it is destroyed by pure force, this apocalypse tank will not feel comfortable under 2 punches. The blood volume is pitifully low, and black smoke is billowing, as if it may explode at any time. Even an ordinary mobilization recruit will be killed at this time. Can blow it up? If the apocalypse tank could talk, I'm afraid everyone would be crying at this time. Originally, it was just patrolling step by step, still on the outer edge of the headquarters, but it was suddenly controlled by the mind, and later was beaten to a disability. What's the point? What a guy! He is indeed the king of wild beasts. More and more perverted. 2 punches, almost killing an apocalypse tank. Things like the wild beasts are scary enough, but it's better for you, the wild beast king, with such strong destructive power. It makes me, an old guy, a little envious. The group of generals ignored the apocalypse tank, and now they all lamented Wang Ling's destructive power. Looking at his exaggerated blue-black figure, there was a sense of fanaticism in their eyes. Different camps advocate different things. For example, the Empire of the Soul advocates spiritual power, the Allied Forces camp advocates high technology, and the Alliance Army advocates simple and wild power. This comparison can actually be seen from the technology of the arms of the 3 major forces. Not to mention the other 2 major forces, here alone in the coalition, whether it is the Apocalypse tank or the Kirov airship, which one is not pursuing powerful armor and ultra-high explosive power. Even super weapons such as nuclear bomb attack are the simplest and most direct form of explosive destruction. Under this admirable mentality, a group of generals, and even PoortoRich, not only did not find Wang Ling in this ugly state, but instead felt that he was very strong and cool. Wang Ling smiled, patted the apocalypse tank that was still alive, and ordered it to go to the repair shop. Apocalypse tank, as if it had received an amnesty, dragged the seriously injured car body and ran away in a hurry. When the apocalypse tank arrived at the maintenance factory and began to be repaired, Wang Ling changed back to its normal appearance and replied, within a certain height, I can change the size of the wild beast king at will, but the strength is constant, so there is no need to burst his clothes, and also expanded the target. The wild beast king form is not only powerful in destructive power, but also has strong endurance. When I made a big fuss in the Russian branch, this form helped me a lot. It can be said that I can stand here safely, too. Thanks to this form. Ha ha ha. After hearing what Wang Ling said, all the generals laughed heartily. PoortoRich even gloated, sure enough, the Mind Empire's attempt to control you is really disappointing. Whether it's shockwaves, mind control, or, Wild Beast King, those were all preparations they made to better control you, but in the end you lost control and returned, exerting all these abnormal abilities on the Soul Empire. Ha ha ha, it makes me feel like thinking about this. Relieve your anger. Old General Suzaku also echoed, what doesn't belong to them can't be taken away by force. If you break the rules, you have to suffer some punishment. Report. As soon as he finished speaking, without waiting for the other generals to speak, an engineer suddenly rushed in and ran to Commander Rich to give a military salute. Usually there is nothing important, and these engineers who are delivering orders will not intrude into such a situation. PoortoRich did not embarrass him. He interrupted the other generals with a wave of his hand and asked the engineers, what's the matter? The engineer replied, Coach, the Allies have just sent another request, hoping to complete the second technology exchange of arms. Feelings are brought up again by the Allied forces, and I think about this again. Because of Wang Ling's incident, the agreed-upon exchange time was also delayed by the coalition forces. Although the Allies were not convinced, they were in the wrong after all and could only swallow their anger. Now that Wang Ling has returned, the Allies finally took the opportunity to make this request. However, the generals were a little disdainful of this request. TCH, can they just swap if they want to? Don't we want to lose face? After Wang Ling was tricked so badly, he still had the nerve to ask for a technology swap between arms. Do the Allies still want to show their respect? Tisk, tisk, the Allies are really coveting our Kirov airships, and they are rushing to exchange technology. It can't be said that we are rushing. When we refused, we used Wang Ling as an excuse, saying that we would not exchange it until Wang Ling came back. Now that Wang Ling is back, they have also seized this opportunity. Although I say that, look at what the Allies have done in the past few months. They still want to protect the old dog Reagan. We use this as an excuse to delay the technology exchange indefinitely. I'll see what they can do. It seems that these generals really don't like this second exchange of technology between arms. Indeed, the alliance between the two armies was divided into two times on the condition of the exchange of arms and technology. In the first exchange, the coalition forces generally took advantage, exchanging terror robots for phantom tanks and SEALs. This second exchange means that the Allies have the upper hand, exchanging two types of infantry units, the Chrono Legionnaires and the Rocket Troopers, for the Allied Air Death Kirov airship. For this reason, the Allied forces are very much looking forward to this exchange, but the attitude of the Allied forces is exactly the opposite. PoortoRich also sneered, the Allies are really thick-skinned. Did Wang Ling just come back and press for redemption? Haha, do they think that after Wang Ling killed Reagan, we won't hold grudges? Humph, answer the Allies, it's not that we refuse to exchange, but Wang Ling has just returned and there is still time to adapt. Then we will discuss the exchange of technology. Yes, the engineer responded and was about to retreat when Wang Ling suddenly interrupted, wait a minute. Huh? What's wrong, Wang Ling? PoortoRich was confused. Wang Ling replied, Coach, why is the agreed upon technology exchange between the arms postponed? This technology exchange is also very beneficial to us. Yes, the one in the coalition who is looking forward to this technology exchange the most is none other than Wang Ling. If nothing unexpected happens to others, the military type is fixed and cannot be changed, but Wang Ling can. Moreover, he has been coveting the Allied Chrono Legion soldiers for too long. He had already been thinking about them as early as when he joined the battlefield and attacked the Allied Chrono mining vehicle. However, he suffered from the fact that they were a unit of the hostile force, and the army was worried and would rather self-destruct than be occupied by the command post. Wang Ling could only look back and sigh. But later, when the two armies joined forces, they finally reached an agreement and could exchange for this type of troops. For Wang Ling, was there any reason to postpone? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 894. Ha ha ha. After hearing what Wang Ling said, PoortoRich burst out laughing. What you say is good for us, is it actually good for you, right? That's right, Wang Ling's face turned red and he simply admitted it. In the current battle, the Chrono Corps soldiers and rocket pilots are quite useless to the coalition forces. For these useless units, they have to exchange for the Kirov airship, the god of death in the air. No matter how you think about it, you will suffer a loss. However, Wang Ling is really eager to get the technology of these two arms. Not to mention anything else, Just thinking about the process of Wang Ling's escape and being chased as a grandson by the Soul Empire makes me really angry. But if there were units like Chrono Legionnaires, a single Chrono movement would be able to far away from the pursuers of the Soul Empire. Do they want to chase them? Chase a hammer? What's more, other combat-type arms are indeed useless if brought to the real world, but time and space movement is quite practical. As for rocket pilots, who doesn't want to embody the feeling of flying? Ha ha ha, are you admitting it so happily? I see, you had this in mind when we first discussed the exchange of technology between arms, right? The other generals were also amused by Wang Ling's bachelor attitude, and they all made fun of him, making Wang Ling extremely embarrassed. To say that other people need these services is irrelevant to these generals, and may even turn their noses up at them. However, Wang Ling is an exception. As a hero of the coalition forces, Wang Ling's combat effectiveness has even reached a level that can determine the outcome of a battle. What he needs, the coalition forces have to consider. For this reason, PoortoRich looked at Wang Ling up and down for a while, and suddenly smiled heartily. Okay. Originally I didn't want to exchange, but since it is what you need, let's open this back door. I also want to see, the most top, how far can such an almighty hero grow in the end. Go, answer the allies, and complete the exchange procedure at noon tomorrow. Yes. The engineer who summoned the messenger responded and turned away. After he left, Wang Ling gradually became happy. Haha, I finally got it. Thank you very much, coach. Ha ha ha. Look at how anxious he is. He is more anxious than meeting his wife, right? Other generals made teasing remarks one after another, and even General Li Wiki laughed and agreed. But this time, Wang Ling no longer felt embarrassed. All he felt in his heart was full of gratitude and expectation. Wang Ling and General Li Wiki came to the headquarters this time. To put it bluntly, they were just reporting on their work. By the way, they wanted to hear about Wang Ling's experience and see how he had changed during this time. By now, these reports have ended, but PoortoRich had no intention of letting them go back. Instead, he kept them and had lunch together at the headquarters. After lunch, General Li Wiki returned alone, but Wang Ling stayed at the headquarters. This wasn't PoortoRich's deliberate dunk, but Wang Ling's request. He wanted to complete the military conversion as soon as possible after the military technology exchange was completed. Although the Baiyuan Mountain War Zone is very far away from here, with the help of the abilities of the Chrono Legion soldiers, it only takes a moment to reach it. At best, it will only take a little longer because of the long distance. Naturally, it is impossible to stay idle in the headquarters. It is wartime after all. The Empire of Mind is watching eagerly, and the war situation in each war zone is also very complicated. After General Li Wiki left, Wang Ling accompanied the coach and a group of generals. The general command post saw the overall situation of the battle situation on the electronic map. Although the Empire of Mind is strong, it is at a disadvantage overall in the face of the joint resistance of the two major forces, the Allied forces and the Allied forces. As can be seen from the electronic map, the combined forces of the two major forces have achieved victories in all frontline theaters. With different results, some bases are even continuing to advance, while others are traveling between major war zones to help attack the enemy. Although it is inevitable that some battle zones will be lost and captured by the Soul Empire, the overall battle situation is stable and improving. After seeing this battle situation, Wang Ling nodded slightly. The battle situation seems to be in our favor. It seems that the two armies jointly resisted the enemy and suppressed the expansion of the Soul Empire to a certain extent. PoortoRich did not object to his point of view, but then he sighed and said, originally, the situation could have been better, but in the past few months, with your help, the Soul Empire has counterattacked many of our theaters, which is enough. More than 10 spiritual beacons have been established. These more than 10 spiritual beacons are like a lump in my throat, and they make me feel uneasy every time I think about them. Wang Ling was extremely embarrassed when he mentioned this matter. However, that's not what he wanted to do. Who made him be controlled at that time? The camp belongs to the Soul Empire, but shows mercy to the coalition forces. This is Wang Ling trying his best to cherish his old feelings. Fortunately, PoortoRich did not blame Wang Ling for this matter. After a short moment of silence, he suddenly changed the subject and asked, Wang Ling, while you were under control, did you learn about the intentions of the Mind Empire? Their ultimate goal is the device really a spiritual beacon. Coach, do you have any doubts about the authenticity of the spiritual beacon? Wang Ling asked doubtfully. The coach nodded and did not speak. Instead, old General Suzaku answered, the psychic beacon is indeed terrifying. The control area can radiate to an entire large city. It is scary to think about it. But the goal of the psychic empire is to control the world. Control all human beings. Regarding this goal, psychic beacons may be insufficient. Think about it, how many large cities are there in the world? They all need to be controlled through psychic beacons, so how many need to be built? And that's just the city. There are villages, towns, and even mountains, forests, and fields below. There are too many. We want to control the world through spiritual beacons. We were really shocked when we first came across this idea, but the more we thought about it, the more uneasy we became. It's like we missed something. PoortoRich also answered, yes, we and the Allies are trying their best to stop the Soul Empire, and we win more battles than we lose. If this trend continues, I'm afraid it will be difficult for the Soul Empire to achieve their goals. But they are still there, they continue their war without any hurry, which makes people feel very unhappy. Indeed, as a decision maker, you will be extremely sensitive to any abnormal behavior of the enemy. The empire of the soul is inherently ambitious, and all kinds of abnormal behavior are really unsettling. However, they may be disappointed, but Wang Ling failed to give them the answer they wanted. Sorry, Coach, General, during the period of being controlled, the Soul Empire has always been wary of me and did not tell them their true intentions. Me. I just promised that after I complete the enhanced transformation, I will be sent to the headquarters to meet Yuri himself, where I can know everything. Is this so? A group of generals frowned. But just when they were disappointed, Wang Ling made a sudden change. When I finally got home, I looked up to the sky and let out a roar. However, the process of returning home really made me realize what it means to be stuck in the awkward road and drink cold water. It's been a long time since I took a bus home in the city. I didn't know there were two here. I ended up entering the wrong bus station and missed the first bus. I called several times and found the second one outside the station an hour later, but the whole bus was I was a passenger, and the driver temporarily received other orders and sent me to the bus to the next town. I lost my mobile phone on the bus during the transfer. Fortunately, I was contacted through the driver and I can get it back tomorrow. Returning to our town from the next town, I accidentally got on an old age scooter. I don't say it was because it was cheap. I ran for nearly half an hour at an average speed of 30 miles per hour, and finally returned home dusty. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 895. But what? A group of generals asked quickly. Wang Ling briefly recalled and then replied, when I was at the Ruishan branch, I actually asked Yuri X this question. Is the ultimate device of the Mind Empire really the Mind Beacon? What was the result? How did he answer? PoortoRich was a little nervous. Wang Ling wasn't too exciting, he didn't answer my question directly, he just said it was related to the spiritual beacon. I continued to ask, but he refused to answer. Is that so? After hearing this, the generals couldn't help but fell silent again. After a long time, PoortoRich sighed and replied, no matter what, at least it has been determined to be related to the psychic beacon. This is also important information for us. No matter what the true intention of the psychic empire is, they always have to use psychic beacons. In our next battle, on the one hand, we must continue to block the psychic empire in various war zones and prevent their expansion. On the other hand, we must search for the location of the psychic beacon and try our best to destroy it. As long as we control the troops inhabiting the Soul Empire destroy the Soul Beacon, even if the Soul Empire cannot make much waves. Yes, just do it. That's all we can do. Although Wang Ling was controlled by the Mind Empire for several months, the Mind Empire only used Wang Ling to expand its territory and build psychic beacons. Wang Ling had not been exposed to much truly useful information. The news revealed by Yuri X was just an accident. With this limited information, the coalition forces can only continue their current strategy. The job of the headquarters is to direct the overall battle, handle urgent reports from various war zones, and make decisions on some major events, etc. When busy, all staff and generals will be busy. But after all, the bases in each war zone have corresponding commanders. For specific and minor battles, those commanders and even the leaders of the major field groups are responsible. In the battle without accidents, the headquarters has relatively few very leisurely. This afternoon, PoortoRich, the generals and staff handled some emergency reports and mobilized the deployment and relocation of several bases. They were not so busy at other times. Wang Ling stayed here and felt like he was doing nothing for a while. He stayed until evening, had dinner with the generals, and after strolling for a while, Wang Ling rested in the military camp. As a gamer, Wang Ling knows the background of Red Alert and can play a big role in some decisions, such as his suggestions when the two armies join forces. However, Wang Ling's specific identity is that he is a combat soldier after all. He stays at the headquarters all the time and is generally doing nothing. Maintaining this leisurely attitude and state, Wang Ling waited until noon the next day. The second technology exchange between the two armies that he had expected was finally completed. This kind of technology exchange was not as large-scale a ceremony as imagined. After all, it was during the war, and the fighting was tense. All the high-level officials of the two armies signed their approval, and the military-industrial personnel of both sides directly exchanged the corresponding military technology. The Allied forces provided the combat principles and manufacturing drawings of the Kirov airship, and the Allied forces provided the weapons and equipment production technology and training methods of the two major arms. The interaction was done electronically, which was very fast. Uncle Hay, returned to the transit station. As soon as the two types of military technology were obtained, Wang Ling couldn't wait to try them out and returned to the transfer station almost immediately. Seeing his anxious look, Uncle Hay also joked, "You've been waiting for the Chrono Legionnaires for a long time, right? Now I finally got it, look how excited you are." Wang Ling giggled and hurriedly urged, "Okay, Uncle Hay, let's stop talking nonsense. Hurry up, change the arms, the time and space legion soldiers, and the rocket pilots. There are also arms experience books for the two types of arms. Let's come together." "Good." Uncle Hay responded, and as soon as he finished speaking, the program started immediately, and Wang Ling immediately fell into a trance, with a large amount of training memories poured into his mind. These memories are naturally the training process of the two major arms, as well as the intensive training experience under the experience book. In the past, when Wang Ling changed arms, he could only infuse memories of a single arm, and the experience books of arms had to be separated. Even so, whenever the conversion was completed and the one-star veteran was promoted, Wang Ling would be tired and sleepy from accepting too many memories at once. But now, after advanced strengthening, Wang Ling's endurance has been greatly improved. The conversion of the two arms and the experience books of the two arms are poured into his mind at the same time. When he learns those memories, his body is also slightly strengthened, but he is not tired at all. There was no feeling at all, it was completely within his tolerance. 4 times the infusion, of course, it also takes 4 times the time to experience and digest it. That kind of trance lasted for a long time before Wang Ling finally completed the transformation of arms, and all 2 categories of arms were promoted to 1-star veterans. After opening his eyes, Wang Ling was still confused, filtering these memories in his mind, and it took some time to digest them all. As he browsed through these memories, the corners of Wang Ling's mouth gradually rose, and finally he grinned exaggeratedly, smiling like a fool, haha. Finally got it? I've been greedy for too long. Congratulations, after you become proficient in these 2 types of arms, your combat effectiveness will probably increase to another level. Uncle He also congratulated him at the right time. But while Wang Ling transformed into a soldier of the Hyperspace Legion and put on the special equipment and clothing, he also responded, put aside combat power and so on. Of these 2 types of troops, one is for high-altitude flight and the other is for instant arrival. Even if you have no fighting power at all, it's still worth it. Swish. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Ling suddenly launched a space-time movement, leaving a trace of space-time movement on the spot, but his body had already appeared behind Uncle He. Every time the Chrono Legion soldiers move, they will freeze for a certain period of time, unable to move or attack, and Wang Ling is no exception. During the period of stiffness, his body seemed to be covered with a transparent super-time-space film, giving off a sense of illusion. However, wrapped in this film, Wang Ling could not move at all. However, the stiffness time after this kind of movement across time and space is also related to the length of the movement distance. Wang Ling moved from in front of Uncle He to behind him. The distance was short enough, and the stiffness time was also short enough to be almost negligible. Haha, is this time travel? It feels good. Whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, without waiting for Uncle He to speak, Wang Ling moved across time and space again and randomly appeared in a corner of the transfer station. After a short period of stiffness, he returned to normal. Whoosh. Whoosh. Afterwards, Wang Ling moved several times in succession, and he visited almost every corner of the transfer station. This speed is so fast, even if the time of freezing is included, it is much faster than running by himself.